Good afternoon and welcome to another Dubs TV doubleheader here from Parnell Park. Later we'll be bringing you the Senior 1 Football Championship semi-final between Ballyboden and St Jude's. But first, it's the Senior 2 Football Championship semi-final with Naomh Mearnog taking on St Brigids for a much coveted place in the Senior 2 final. These two teams are no strangers to each other, having already met face to face in Group 3 when St Brigids got the better of Naomh Mearnog by 6 points. But this time they meet on neutral territory. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes any significant difference. Although given their record over the years, it's likely that the St Brigids players might be more familiar, at least slightly more familiar, with Parnell Park than their Portmarnock rivals. So let's have a look at the two teams, first of all beginning with Naomh Mearnog. There are 3 late changes on the Naomh Mearnog team. In goal should have been Marcus Fitzmaurice, but he's replaced by Mark O'Connor. The full backline stays the same, Darrow Boyle, Frank Doyle and Owen Kelly. The half-back line has 2 changes. Matthew Shortall has been replaced at wing-back by Adon Fee, wearing number 19. And at centre-back, Gavin Nangle has been replaced by Fintan O'Connor, wearing number 20. Darren Byrne is on the left. In midfield, Brendan Colreevy and Shane Carthy, although I expect a change there as well. There's going to be a bit of a reshuffle in the Mearnog ranks as well. At number 10, Carl Lynch-Bissett. Number 11, Sean Hawkshaw. And number 12, Shane Kavanagh. And the full forward line, Alan Doyle, Mark Phelan and Niall Murphy. For St Brigids, no late changes for them, at least none that we're aware of as yet. In goals is Stephen Moore. The full back line, Owen Devitt, Sean Clark and Sean Murray. The half back line, Donncha Ryan, Niall Davey and Fiacre O'Mara. In midfield, it's Sean Egan wearing 8 and Cathal Doyle wearing 9. The half forward line, Mark Donnelly at 10, Paddy Andrews at 11, the standout figure I suppose on the St Brigids side, as Shane Carthy perhaps is for Naomh Mearnog. And at number 12 for St Brigids is Liam Campbell. The full forward line, 13 Paddy Lysett, 14 Philly Ryan and 15 Mark Cahill. You might notice that there's also no John O'Loughlin at this stage now, a man who's been a huge figure in the St Brigids ranks for the last number of years. The Laois player no longer with them at the moment, so that could be a factor in this game this afternoon. Well, conditions are very good here in Parnell Park, and I'm joined on commentary this afternoon by former Dublin star and indeed all-star Cumann Goggins. Cumann, difficult enough one to call given the year that it's in, as well as the fact that St Brigids came down from Senior 1 last year and are looking perhaps to make their mark in Senior 2 this year.
Yeah, thanks Kevin. Yeah, absolutely. I guess the great thing about the way the championship is formatted this year is that across the 1 and 2, there's plenty of games. There's teams together for 8-10 weeks, so they get to get the best out of each other. You're talking about St Brigids, you mentioned Paddy Andrews there, so you've guys then forwards playing around Paddy Andrews who get his experience of top level football, and he drives the standards, I imagine, of training, so that can only help the team, particularly in the forward line. And he's well aided by Philip Ryan in the full forward line there in terms of how they gel and what they're trying to do in terms of scores. And they're probably 2 of the key figures when you talk about the 6-point victory that they had earlier on in the competition. When you're talking about winning championship matches, it often comes down to those scoring forwards and who has the guy who can get 1-3 or 0-5. And in both Philip Ryan and Paddy Andrews, certainly Brigids have key scorers. With Mearnogs, they're probably a team who've been flourishing in the background for a number of years and coming through with lots of new and fresh faces, while probably since they've collected any silverware across Dublin football divisions or championships. But they're starting to come. I know they're in an intermediate hurling final as well in the next week or so. So there's obviously a good batch of young guys that are coming through the team. Shane Carthy has been their standout performer anytime these guys take to the field, which is great to see. And he's, in terms of, for a Dublin perspective, when you're looking at guys who've been around for a long time and what way the changing of the guard might happen there at some point, for Shane Carthy to start performing at a top level across club, that can hopefully lead into him flourishing in an inter-county career if it ever comes to that. Well, that's only a positive from a county position. So you're right, it's difficult to call because you have 2 teams who are chomping at the bit to go and win a senior championship, be it the second tier championship. Brigids, you'd probably have to fancy on the basis that they got one over on them already in the group format, but you rightly said Parnell Park, no crowd, very different atmosphere. While Brigids may have a little bit more experience of it, I think Naomh Mearnog will be teeing themselves up for a good chance to get a big scalp here and push on into a final.
It's very difficult for a club to keep hurling and football going at the same time. Naomh Mearnog are obviously doing that successfully at the moment, but for Brigids, the hurling seems to have come on and the football seems to have taken a back seat in recent years.
Yeah, and I guess probably where St Brigids have been challenged a little bit is that in Castleknock there's huge numbers are taking part underage, and they're certainly grown as a club. They're not that long established. They were in a county final here a couple of years ago, So for want of a better way of phrasing it, they've maybe been superseded in that neck of the woods by what Castleknock have been achieving both underage and through the senior ranks. So Brigids are probably in a stage of I hate to call it rebuilding, because they've been there or thereabouts for as many years as I can remember, but there's certainly probably a change in the guard and how they're looking about going about doing things in the club, and maybe that's impacted on the hurling side, albeit that there's been some great work done there. They were phenomenal last year in the championship to get where they got to in the hurling championship. So yeah, absolutely, it's hard to keep two codes going, but I guess what the top clubs are able to do is probably find separate players for the two codes, so you're not banking on 10 fellas coming across from football to hurling, so you very much have a hurling squad and a football squad, and there might be one or two guys who complement that, so you're not reliant on hopefully a fella not getting injured in the hurling the week previous or the week afterwards. You take the Senior 1 semi-finals coming after that, and you see Conall Keaney, who's still trucking across two codes, which is a phenomenal achievement from to still be going, given all that he's been through in terms of body and injuries and the career that he's had. So it's still possible to do it. It's very difficult for any club to achieve it across two codes, but certainly Naomh Mearnog have a young crew coming through who are driving that, and Brigids are probably seeing a changing of the guard in respect of the teams that we would have traditionally seen them field over the last maybe 5 or 10 years.
Well, Ballybowden perhaps are the exception. But they have two very strong panels, football and hurling, and that's obviously the reason perhaps why they can manage to do that. But looking at Brigids there again, I'm just thinking about the fact that they've had an awful lot of success at underage level, and that doesn't necessarily always translate into senior football success.
No, and I'm one of those guys who hoards programmes, and I love looking at inter-county minor teams and then trying to track their progress into senior setups, and you don't often see 4, 5, 6 guys coming through. It's one or two. In the rare exception, you might see a minor team. You take a Galway minor team in '94 who got to an All-Ireland a minor final. There was the Porrick Joyces. Probably 5 of their forwards went on to play in a senior team. Michael Donlan was with them as well. So that doesn't happen that often. You think of Desi Farrell's minor team in 11, a good track of guys came through from there. So when you have underage success, there's a huge transition from 15, 16, 17 into minor and then on into senior football, and that's a big gap for guys to break. The Brigids team, there's a couple of names there who would have won a fail under 14 under Keith Barr's stewardship probably 8-10 years ago, or that the likes of Mark Donnelly would have been involved in that team. Certainly on the sideline as well, you have Kevin Callaghan, Malachy Ty, Jack O'Neill, Donnacha Ryan at wing back. So they've a smattering of guys who would have come through that team and would have had Keith Barr guiding them through that, I guess. They probably haven't pushed through into the senior team maybe as quick as people would have expected to happen, but maybe this is the right time for them now to try and deliver on that promise. It's, as you rightly said, not often that guys can turn juvenile football into success at older age, but certainly these guys now have an opportunity to put a stamp on a Senior 2 competition this year.
So Naomh Mearnog would be a club that's it wouldn't be one of the bigger clubs in the city. It wouldn't be as well known as St. Brigids or many other clubs in the city. But I mean, they only were started in mid-1970s. So I mean, they're a young club as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I only started myself in the mid-70s, but we won't go there. They what I suppose Naomh Mearnog have the benefit of, and a little bit like the Coola, they have a bit of a peninsula where they're able to hone in on. And obviously there's in competition with other sports in terms of soccer, tennis, cricket, anything else that might be going on. But what they do have is obviously their neck of the woods that they're able to draw people into. So that always gives you a little bit of an advantage in terms of a core group, core number of families who are involved in the club, I guess, that support and try and drive the standards of the club. They probably have gone through a period where they dropped back and maybe were, Naomh Mearnog, certainly when I would play him on one of the teams, you didn't fancy going out playing because it was always a hard battle to play against them. You were out on the coast there, so it was always difficult conditions. But it was tough, it was physical, and you whatever you took from Naomh Mearnog, you fully deserved it. This group of guys coming through again now seem to be young, fresh, have that attitude again where they're willing to put bodies on the line to try and deliver. And that's great for the club because they have a huge underage structure, massive in terms of the numbers. So for, sowing the seed for the next generation that are coming through, success at this level is hugely important for them.
That's what it all really matters though, isn't it? It's at this underage, bringing players in, giving them the right ideas, the right tactics to play with, and then seeing how they just move on from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we'd love that every, under 10 and under 14 would eventually go on and play with the senior team, that ultimately isn't going to happen. I guess the job of a coach and these guys who are playing as role models is to show that there's a place within the club. Maybe it's admin, maybe it's playing junior football, maybe it's just the social aspect you want to be involved in. The guys out here are fortunate enough to be able to put the time and commitment into it to play at the top level in senior championship. But that's not to say that the guys coming through don't take a a boost from what they're trying to achieve and be the best at whatever level that is for them. So you're right, it's nurturing what's coming behind and laying the seeds for that by having the success and playing as part of a team in these big games.
Just come back to something you said earlier on there about your time in Ballantyre. When you were playing senior intercounty football, were you basically gone for the summer?
Yeah, and I guess the big win this year for the clubs is that they've been able to play with their intercounty players. So if you take the Dublin Club Championship, you generally had a couple of matches in April, then there was a complete shutdown and guys went off and played with their who were fortunate enough to play intercounty were gone then until the summer ended. Unfortunately at my time it ended a little bit more premature than the last 5 years has for a lot of the guys who are involved here. So if you take Ballymun as the prime example, they've had to operate for 6 years where they have only got these guys back 10 days before going back into championship action. Look at them this year where they've been there all year, and you suddenly are setting significant standards across every training session, because James McCarthy isn't going to let it drop for anybody, and nor is Dean Rock the other end of the field. So that rises the whole club system, and it also allows the 15 get to know each other. You know, from Ballymun's perspective, you had 5 guys who were playing, or 6 guys, and they knew when the other 6 came back they were probably going to be stepping out of the team and the other guys fitting in. So yes, there was a significant amount of time spent away from it, and it was hard then gel back into the club. There's
also that other aspect to that, which is that the players that are there, do they tend to relax when the top players come back and think, well, they'll do it, you know, I don't have to do it anymore?
Yeah, maybe they do. I guess there's probably a little bit of the expectation because they're coming back into it, but I imagine in Ballymun's case there's probably been a little bit of maybe they felt that they haven't delivered to this in terms of more Dublin senior titles because of what they have coming back in. But when you temper to the fact that they've been winning All Irelands, 6 of those guys time after year, fortunately for them, it's been very difficult to try and achieve that.
Well, we're almost ready to go here in Parnell Park. Conditions are good. It was very windy earlier on, but it seems to have dropped down now. Pitched in perfect condition in this first half. Brigids will play down towards the golf club end, down to our right hand side, your right hand side as you're watching. Brigids in red and white, Naomh Mearnog in the black and amber. Now, as I said, there'll be a few switches on that Naomh Mearnog team.
Yeah, I see Brendan Colreevy has just gone into the corner here, corner forward. It also looks like Carl Lynch Bishop has dropped back there to pick up Paddy Andrews in the half-back line. So Naomh Mearnog have obviously done a lot of homework around, you know, key battle areas here.
Dave Feeney of Parnell's is our referee for this afternoon's match. The ex-Army match, ex-Army man gets us moving, and straight away there it's only as far as Niall Davey who got possession of that ball. Brigids, who did a lot of hand passing in their warm-up for this one, start this one off with a bit of hand passing as well. Sean Egan coming forward, plays it onto the far side. Cathal Doyle back again to Sean Egan, little triangle of passes. Mark Donnelly now, bit of space to move. The runs are being made left and right of him, but he decides to play it infield. Mark Cahill has come back from the corner forward position into the middle of the field, but now gives an opportunity for Niall Davey to go forward. That long ball into the corner. The opportunity for the shot, and it comes in from Philly Ryan, and that's a great opening score. It comes on just 55 seconds. That was good football from St. Brigids. The long ball into the corner, Philly Ryan coming away from full forward and getting possession.
Yeah, and they held on to ball well there before they led into Philly Ryan. We mentioned him just at the outset that himself and Paddy Andrews have plenty of experience in terms of leading the line for them. He certainly showed well, turned onto his left boot to stick it over the bar, and while Mearnogs had people behind the ball, maybe just not enough pressure on it.
Mearnogs have the break now at the other end of the field. Little hand in there from Niall Davey, gives away the free, and I think there's going to be a word for him straight away from Dave Feeney. I think he realised that things were beginning to open up there. It really was a dangerous break.
Yeah, it almost looked like he was about to trip and pulled his leg back in, so he's fortunate in that he's been given a yellow card there, but it's very early to pick up that for a guy in a fairly significant spot defensively for Brigids, so an early yellow card.
And an opportunity now for Shane Kavanagh for Naomh Mearnog. We'll see if he's got his shooting boots on.
I just noticed as well there that Jack O'Neill, 18, has started for Brigids there, probably in the corner back position for St. Brigids.
Yeah, late change for Brigids. That one looking a little bit to the right. It has indeed gone to the right and wide. The game's first wide goes to Naomh Mearnog. And as you said there, Jack O'Neill coming in as a late change for St. Brigids. Naomh Mearnog warmed up in St. David's before they came to Parnell Park and warmed up again, so they're certainly warmed up before this one. And again going deep, Mark Cahill, Sean Egan, And Naomh Mearnog are coming off them and giving them plenty of space. Niall Davy going forward once again. That one's a little bit loose, but no problems for Paddy Andrews to go back and win it. St. Brigids have a line of 4 or 5 men across the halfway line just at the moment. Niall Davy's going to try and break that line, plays it out the far side to Fiachra O'Mara. It's all very short play, and there's plenty of men back and plenty of men guarding the D there as well, or a little bit ahead of the D. A little bit of space now. Donnacha Ryan has this one. Player who likes to go for the score if he gets the opportunity, but he's been well held there. Paddy Andrews comes back off him. Paddy Andrews now the long crossfield ball there. Philly Ryan is inside. Philly Ryan gets that one. Should go for the point from there. Philly Ryan decides not to go for the goal. Goes for the point instead. Gets his second point of the day. Again, patient, good build up and good score.
Yeah, the big problem for Naomh Mearnog is that while they have numbers behind the ball, they're putting no press on the 50-metre line here. So St. Brigids are able to move the ball left and right under no real significant pressure. They then punch across the 45-metre line, and it's a simple ball across to Philly Ryan to pick out a score there. But that's coming because there's not enough pressure on the ball 45, 50 metres out, allowing Brigids to set, recycle before they deliver the proper pass into their scoring forward.
Paddy Lysett has it now for St. Brigids in the corner. And again, similar pattern developing again. No great ambition from Naomh Mearnog at this point in time. Giving Brigids the opportunity to set things up. Mark Cahill, he's playing in that right half back position more often than not.
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch it from here to see that while Naomh Mearnog have bodies behind the ball, it really is no pressure on it, and it's trying to force that kick away, that you'll just kick it and aimlessly kick it over the end line from a Brigids point of view there. But if they continue to sit back like that, Brigids will happily pick off scores as the game progresses. So they need to, push up, put a little bit of pressure on Brigids and not allow them to settle on the ball.
At that time, Philly Ryan was the target man, that it just went too far for him. As I said, there's barely any wind here now at the moment. It's perfect conditions for football. Fintan O'Connor playing that ball forward. A little push in the back there on Alan Doyle, wins the free for Naomh Mearnog. Shane Carthy's going to take this one, and again goes back so that they can perhaps build from that. Gets the return pass. Bit of space now. The opportunity to go forward there for Aidan Fee. Aidan plays a nice little ball into the corner there. It just broke away at the wrong time, and nice little boot in there. Brigids now with a little bit more ambition, but that one's going to go straight into the middle of the field there, as far as I think it's Brendan Culreevy's back out there getting it. We have a Naomh Mearnog player still down, tying up his boot. Oh, that one just away from the fingertips there, but an opportunity again for Shane Kavanagh. Shane Kavanagh looks as if he's trying to get across to make the shot. Sean Hawkshaw instead plays it back out as far as Darren Byrne. Shane Carthy holding up, looking for support. Gets it from Brendan Culreevy. Seems to have retreated now back out into the centre of the field. Oh, that pass went astray.
Yeah, probably forced that a little bit. There was no reason for him to go there. There was probably an opportunity to have a go himself, or to at least come back and bring it the other direction. Just misguides the pass, and that just takes a bit of energy out of Naomh Mearnog. They're just trying to settle into the game. There's 5 minutes on the clock, and they have had one shot, but haven't really got into the game yet, and not putting any pressure on St. Brigids either.
Paddy Andrews now trying to break that line. Eventually gets inside, but he hasn't an awful lot of support. He has to go back. Now he's going forward once again. He held on for as long as he could, and again in towards Philly Ryan in that full forward position. Philly Ryan gets a finger to that one. That one was a good save in the end there from Mark O'Connor. But once again, Naomh Mearnog come out of defence. I mentioned earlier that these teams met in Group 3. Brigids won that by 113 to 10 points in Russell Park, their home ground. But in fact, it was only some late scores that put a bit of a gloss on that victory. So they came here today expecting this to be very, very tight. Indeed, that was St. Brigids' only home game in this competition. They had to travel away for their 3 other games. Naomh Mearnog now again looking for their opening score in this game. Fintan O'Connor. Little low ball works for them. But again, it's all very slow. Brigids filtered back now. Coming out a little bit and putting a bit more pressure on Mearnog than they have been doing on St. Brigids perhaps. And there is that little bit of space. Brendan Culreevy Gets the long ball inside there. But after being so patient, then they went for a very hopeful ball.
Yeah, but they'd 5 guys between the passer there and their 45-metre line there. So what options had he got only to try something that was, a little speculative? So while, on the ball and making no progress, you need guys coming off your shoulder pace, trying to break the line that Brigids have set up. And at the minute, the way things are set up, it very much favours what St. Brigids are doing with that slow type of play and their own attacking, when they're attacking on the ball, and probably just requires something a little bit different from Naomh Mearnog, even though it's early into the game, just maybe to reset a little bit and try something different for maybe 10 minutes.
Cathal Doyle now. He looks left, he looks right, decides to go for the shorter option. Mark Donnelly. Mark Donnelly plays it back as far as Donnacha Ryan. Donnacha Ryan back outside to Mark Donnelly. Mark Donnelly, will he play it inside or will he go for the shot? He goes for the shot, and that was a very easy score, controlled and well taken.
Yeah, a great score by Mark Donnelly there. Brigids, or Naomh Mearnog unlucky just to slip and lose footing. Donnacha Ryan then turns, flips it back to Donnelly, who pops it over the bar. But again, it just comes from the standoff nature of Mearnog's defending in this first 10 minutes. They're allowing themselves to be dictated, they're allowing guys to come at them and run at them, and then they're not able to put a press on or put a stop on St. Brigids, and hence they've picked off 3 relatively easy scores within the first 10 minutes.
Are they perhaps showing St. Brigids a little bit too much respect at this stage?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're fearful of St. Brigids. I'd say it's the way they've set themselves up, so they're very much aiming to, block space. But block space is no good if you're not putting the press on the guys out the field, because they still have time to find a pass and they don't feel squeezed on it.
Fintan O'Connor, good ball through there to Mark Phelan. Mark Phelan now looking up. There's 4 Brigids players around him. He'll go for the shot from there and he should get that one. That's a good score from the full forward Mark Phelan.
Yeah, and an important score because they really haven't threatened that St. Brigids full back line. So important that they managed to get themselves on the board. Tossed and turned a couple of times, managed to get a little shove in the right direction to the edge of the D before sticking it over the bar. But certainly a bad turnover.
And that's Shane Carthy going forward now. An opportunity. Mark Phelan's inside him. He looks for Mark Phelan, but it's broken up there by Sean Egan. So we've had 4 scores so far. They've all been from play, which is a good sign for the game. And Brigids now. Mark Cahill. He's always available. He's always in that centre back or right half back position. Mark Donnelly, Jack O'Neill. A good promising move again for Brigids. Mark Donnelly getting involved. He's been involved now a lot in the last 2 or 3 minutes. That's a poor one though. The interception, the turnover, giving an opportunity for Shane Carthy to go along with this one, which he does. But that one was Owen Devitt there, who stood his ground. No free.
Yeah, Shane Carty's tried a couple of those. Balls, but he's just putting a little bit too much on them at the moment, and they're favouring obviously Brigids in that they're running out over the end line, so he's not giving a chance to the 2 guys inside.
And that's a difficult one there. It was well won in the end by Owen Kelly. Certainly the Mearnog's player had the greater opportunity to get hold of that one. Shane Carthy again, Brendan Culreevy, and that's a loose one. When you get possession like that, you more or less have to use it and use it well, and that's another loose one. A lot of loose play just at the moment. 2 turnovers in the space of 15 seconds. Shane Carthy looking for Fintan O'Connor. Fintan O'Connor will stroll forward with this one. He hadn't really any other alternative there but to play that ball back outside to Sean Hawkshaw. Little run from him, little dart back. Aidan Fee, Sean Hawkshaw, and that one looking quite good. And that's a good score. Well, they were patient there again, but it worked out in the end. Yeah,
great score coming into the game a little bit. Just very quick hands, so a couple of quick passes just freed up a little bit of space for Hawkshaw to swing it over the bar. A little bit better in terms of the movement in that half forward line. And I guess it's just trying to connect those a little bit quicker and move the ball a little bit sharper to do that.
Well, it's only 3 points to 2, a point between them now. And that's after about 11 minutes of play. And speaking of 11, there's the number 11, Paddy Andrews. Oh, he made a really good burst there, used his strength. I think he was thinking about going off the outside of the boot there for a shot and then decided against it. So they'll start once again. Reset. Mark Cahill. Paddy Andrews, bit of space this time. Again, he looked like he was going to go for the shot. Then he decided to go inside, and I think he's going to get the free now. And the referee there had no doubts whatsoever. The hand was on the shoulder.
Yeah, great work for your young forward. Watch what he does, the way he cuts across the defender there again. So he forces the defender to get onto his back almost. So he's asking the defender to step back. The defender knows they can't afford to step back because then it allows him a clean run at goal. So he engineers a free by just using his body to get across the defender, and ultimately the defender then falls down on top of him. Carl Lynch-Bissett, has represented Dublin underage. Very strong operator, but Paddy Andrews is very wise too at this stage.
From 20 metres out, Paddy Andrews squeezes it inside that left hand upright, no problems whatsoever for him. And referee Dave Feeney too he's letting them go into contact too, a bit too much contact there, but he's a referee who likes to let things flow a little bit.
Yeah, I think he favours the physical. If any man who's in the army probably does, I guess, and that there's a lot of physical contact involved in any of their training, I guess. But he's good. He's very solid in terms of on the whistle. He's very definitive when he does decide on something.
Now we're heading for the first water break in this game. Brigids are 2 points clear, but you can feel that Mearnog are beginning to grow into the game a little bit more, with a little bit more to show for their efforts. And has that one gone over? It has gone over. And that once again was the full forward.
Yeah, great work from Mark Phelan there. It looked like Fake Romar had got a hand on it just to do enough to get it out over the line, but he backed himself here, took on the cornerback Murray and then kept going, but maybe a half chance to flick a ball out for a goal, decided to go for his own score and popped it over the bar.
Yeah, normally in those circumstances nowadays there's always somebody loitering on the edge of the small parallelogram that you're looking for them, but there he just decided, no, I'll go for the score myself.
Yeah, probably the right decision, because the pass would have been very short to create the goal chance, and he would have had to have got it down to his boot very quickly because he was so close to goal. So I think he probably made the right call in sticking it over the bar.
Well, Brigids have got a bit of daylight to play with now, and once again Mearnog deciding just how far back they should go, and then what's the right point to take on the attacking player. Mark Donnelly's waiting for this one and he'll get it. And that was interesting there, the way that Fake Romara just drifted off that, and now he's taking a bit of a break after that run from the half back line. Niall Davey plays it to Paddy Andrews. Paddy Andrews, Sean Egan in support, doesn't use him. Uses Cathal Doyle instead. Cathal Doyle, well, he spotted the run there inside from Philly Ryan, but he couldn't get it through. It was just too low. And so Naomh Mearnog build once again. There's not going to be much between these sides, you get that feeling, because their game plans maybe a little bit similar. And I think as time goes on, Naomh Mearnog might become a little bit more confident. And certainly this time the corner forward, Niall Murphy, just got in front there. Sean Hawkshaw, he snapped at that a little bit too much. It just was being closed down too quickly for him, and I think it's going to run out. No, it's gone out to the right and wide. For a moment there, Sean Murray looked like he was going to take that one on, but referee there is in fact giving the 45.
Yeah, is it a 45?
Or perhaps he's giving the free from there, because in fact, no,
it's a 45 because he looked like he was measuring it or marking it from the wrong side.
Exactly.
I'm not sure how it was a 45 on the basis that it looked like Murray pulled the ball back in, so in that instance it would have been wide, because he certainly didn't step out with it. But I guess referee has made a decision for 45, and while Mearnog maybe were I won't say under the cosh, but certainly not performing in the first 10 minutes, it gives Shane Carthy an opportunity to tie up the game almost at the quarter stage of the first half.
Yes, Shane Carthy taking this kick. It is a 45, and there won't be any wind that'll distract him or put him off if he can strike it well, and he has struck that superbly. Great score from Shane Carthy.
Yeah, and right on the whistle, Dave Feeney just calls it for water break. But yeah, great kick from Shane Carthy there. Mearnogs will be happy enough trotting across the field, because for 10 minutes there it looked like that their game plan was going to suit Brigids. While Brigids turned over ball and still had created opportunity, I guess Philly Ryan isolated there where they've dropped a man back on him now makes it more difficult to find him. So Mearnog will be pleased enough that they've got a couple of scores on the spin there to draw it up at 4 points apiece at the water break.
And the fact that Mearnog, they pushed Brigids in their opening game when they met in the group, and so they know that they can actually match them in certain regards. I know that they were 6 points adrift at the end of that one, but it was a much closer affair by all accounts. So they'll know if they set back on it and just wait and get into the game, which they've done, and now they're level. Yeah,
I just think the big, the standout piece for the first 15 minutes there is the lack of contact when you're coming out to meet guys with the ball. So by not contacting the fellow with the ball, or by not putting that press on them, even though you have players behind the ball, you're still giving opportunity for the ball to be moved left and right. If there's opportunity to find a pass, well, you're going to have the time to do that, because you're not under pressure to get the ball away. The difference between what you'd see maybe at Senior 2 versus the Senior 1 Championship is that ultimate feverish attacking mentality or defensive mentality of pushing up and getting a press on the ball. they haven't even pushed the kick-outs that much either, Naomh Mearnog. So they're very much, we'll protect back and we'll try and push out when we get the opportunity to do that. And Brigids similarly have a similar type of setup. You've mentioned that yourself in the commentary, that the two styles are very similar, and as a consequence then it's very hard for either team to gain any bit of momentum. So while we've had 8 scores, it's been very much, a nice game of football, and that no one's really got stuck into each other yet, So for maybe the next 15 we might just need to up the tempo a little bit, and maybe that's the message that management have delivered.
Damned by faint praise. A nice game of football. Well, this water break will end, and I've noticed too that the water breaks are being much more stringently adhered to in the last few weeks. In fact, I remember being at a game when there was 4 minutes of a water break, but now things are moving much more quickly, and this one is back underway. I'm sure it's much less than 90 seconds, and Brigids again played out of defence. Mearnog committed a few men forward now. Niall Davey decides to play it out the far side to Owen Devitt. Back in field to Fiacre O'Mara. Support from Sean Egan. A good move, this one from Brigids. If they can take a few of the Mearnog players out of it, Paddy Andrews will probably try to do that now. He's got space. There's a run on the far side of the field. It's Liam Campbell. Liam Campbell goes for the score. That one, unfortunate, came down. Aidan Fee was quick to react to that one, and the little slip there. But it was a good opportunity for a score. And now Naomh Mearnog begin the long process of bringing this back. Shane Carthy through into the centre. The cornerback, Owen Kelly. Bit more movement this time around now. Shane Kavanagh was in there, but it's taken away. It was Liam Campbell.
A subtle difference there. Brigids managed to have a shot at goal and it came back off the crossbar. The other end of the field, Mearnog get turned over because of the tackling that Brigids are putting in. So that's what's required. You need to get the hands on. You need to try and put a press on and not allow those easy shots.
That's a good score from Mark Donnelly. He really hadn't much on there, but he saw there was enough space between him and the player to say, look, I can take a shot here, and he did, and Mark Donnelly gets a good score.
Yeah, and I'm a broken record at this stage. Naomh Mearnog just aren't getting hands on the ball here. So in an earlier incident there, Paddy Andrews had just popped the ball ahead, had given a hand pass, and it looked like he was contacted just after he'd given the ball. Dave Feeney said there was nothing to it. Looked like he was going to send him off for a blood sub rule there, but he allowed him to remain where he is. But Brigids just have that little bit. They're a little bit easier in terms of the chances they're creating as we've started here.
And once again, Mark Donnelly. It wasn't Mark Donnelly that time. In fact, it was Liam Campbell who suddenly got into this game. I don't know how old many of you that are listening, but you might remember Liam Campbell as an RTE commentator from many years ago. Well, there's a Liam Campbell playing here today, and he happens to be his grandson. Paddy Andrews from just inside the 45-metre line. This well within his striking distance.
Yeah, and he spent a good while in the warm-up practicing frees from a number of different angles, so he landed a couple of these, so let's see if he can get one for real.
Well, this is the real test now. Can he strike this one well? Well, he strikes it and gives it plenty of air, but unfortunately out to the right-hand side and wide. So things will settle down again now. Mearnog's only defeat, in fact, in this year's championship was to St. Brigids. Otherwise, they won their other 3 matches. They beat St. Maur's, Fingal Ravens, and in the quarter-final, Trinity Gales. Now, those were all in Portmarnock, so they haven't had enough of experience of being on the road, and when they were on the road, they were beaten by Brigids. Now they're under a little bit of pressure there. That's the good pressure you're talking about from Brigids.
So they forced them back. They forced Mearnog to do something different. Now they'll still maybe come out with the ball, but if you manage to turn over the ball 20 yards out from goal, well, the score is a whole lot easier than turning it over 80 yards from goal.
Shane Kavanagh. Shane Carthy. Little bit of a hand-off there as that ball was played through. Sean Hawkshaw. He snaps at that a little bit. That really was a good opportunity for a score.
It really was, because it was a great ball in from Shane Carthy. Great moving from the inside line to come and win the ball, and then the pop back out to Hawkshaw was like, real simple stuff, but clinical. It almost could have been. Just pulled it towards the wrong post at the end there to clip another wide. I think it's 4 for Mearnog to have at this stage.
Jack O'Neill. Donegal Ryan. He's got room. He's been closed down now by Aidan Fee. So he decides to do the simple thing. Plays it back though to Mark Donnelly. Mark Donnelly has a little bit of pace there and he gets away from Aidan Fee. Aidan Fee stops Mark Donnelly and surely will go for the score from there. That one looks as if it's going to go inside that upright, and it does. But really, he left them for dead there.
Yeah, but Kevin, it might just show it on a replay here. Donncha Ryan cuts inside here. There's no one puts a glove on him. Mark Donnelly travels past two Naomh Mearnog players, then goes by a third one who's picking up someone else. His own man who was tagging him drops off in terms of the effort to get to the ball, and he pops it over the bar. A great score, but just Mearnog a little bit flat in terms of their work rate, I'd say, at the moment.
Sean Hawkshaw carries it from Mearnog now. The run on from Shane Carthy. He's going to go for the score from there. That's a mighty score if he gets it. And in fact, he has got it. Well, Shane Carthy is mobile as ever, but that really was great running from him into the space and takes the score very quickly.
Yeah, a great run, and on the move, clips it over the bar. Fantastic score. And I guess living on scraps, they're managing to hang into the game because they really haven't had a huge amount of possession to have created much of the scoring that opportunities they've got.
Donncha Ryan now, he's the one that goes through. Shane Carthy chasing back. He ran into a space there for a score a moment ago. Now he's chasing back to save the day for Naomh Mearnog. Paddy Andrews under a lot of pressure there. Philly Ryan will pick up the loose ball though. Wasn't a really good pass, but it ends up with Philly Ryan. He'd go for the shot himself, half blocked. There were just too many bodies there. We've seen that a few times with players in this game, that really they're not quite in the position to take the shot. They go for it anyhow, and now Naomh Mearnog carry this ball out of defence. Well, the referee, how he sorted that one out, I don't know, but
yeah, I think Jack O'Neill probably a little bit unfortunate there. It did look like he tried to get out in front to get a hand on the ball, and they probably both went to ground at the same time. Looks like he's done a bit of damage to himself. Somebody coming in to have a look at him, but it didn't look like he had ran into his back. But Dave Feeney's seen it differently, and obviously he's in charge, so my opinion really doesn't matter in this instance.
I won't even say a word. Well, these two teams have had very similar scoring records in this year's championships. In Brigids, with an average of 15 points in their games and conceded 11, whereas Mearnogs have had an average of 16 points per game, conceding 10 points. So statistically there's very little between the sides, and at the moment there's very little between them as well, 1 point in fact. And you wouldn't bet too much on there being a huge amount between them at the end, because Naomh Mearnog are hanging in there. Brigids look as if they're playing the better football and moving the more smoothly, but Mearnog are just getting enough scores to keep them in the game. Again, that ball from Shane Carthy through to the full forward, Mark Phelan. Mark Phelan thought about a shot there. Shane Carthy again, will he go for another one? This one is equally good. That's another great score. Well, if you've got a player like Shane Carthy that can just come from deep, support you, run into space, and who's got the confidence to go for those scores, here we are once again back on level terms.
Yeah, 2 on the spin for him there. A great score again, just coming at pace there. Put the ball into Mark Phelan initially, and then went and retrieved a pass back from him, which is brilliant. Phelan understands his role is to win ball and secure it, but then Shane Carthy coming on support, and that's 2 great scores from Shane Carthy that bring Mearnog back all square again.
Liam Campbell, nice little ball into the corner. He could get the return pass here. He runs for it, but the shot is in. In fact, it's gone over. I didn't think that was going to make it. And that one again from Paddy Andrews, was it? It was indeed Paddy Andrews who got that one.
Yeah, I thought there was a pass ahead of Paddy Andrews there before he took the shot, but he managed to steer it over. I thought it was going to tag a tail off wide, but a great score, great work, and again, just driving through the heart of the Naomh Mearnog defence a little bit too easy.
Interesting. A lot of our scores have come from play, which is always a good sign, and it's good, certainly good to watch, although it's somewhat surreal in Parnell Park with so little atmosphere, and sometimes that's what lacks the intensity from the spectators themselves, making players get into it. And it's very much like a practice match at times. Yeah,
and I guess the reason that it's been all from play is because there hasn't been that physical contact that you'd expect probably at this level. So guys are getting a chance to shoot and get away and get a score, as opposed to someone putting that pressure on them and giving away a free with a bad tackle technique.
So similar to what we've seen in the past. St. Brigids retreating. Sean Hawkshaw playing it infield. Mark Phelan coming deep to get hold of that ball, but he hasn't got the support this time, so he's going to have to just play it on a more hopeful ball. He gets it this time himself and goes for the shot, but again that was a bit of a snapped shot way out to the right and wide.
Yeah, but big pressure put on him there. There were 3 Brigids defenders bearing down, and was always going to be difficult to stick that one over the bar. Had worked it well to get to the position they got to. Probably just should have retained possession rather than giving it away or having the shot when he knew he was under significant pressure. That
was a great through ball there to Cathal Doyle, but there isn't the pace there as Liam Campbell picks up this ball. He thought it might have been moved faster. Paddy Lysett has it. He's looking for Philly Ryan. Philly Ryan's under a lot of pressure in there, and Paddy Lyson decides to go for that shot himself, but it's going to go out to the right. No, it might just be stopped. It wasn't in fact stopped, but you could see inside there, they were double marking there on Philly Ryan. They reckon that the high ball into him was a danger for them.
Yeah, well, they have dropped an extra player back to, because early on they were obviously being caught easy with that. What we haven't seen is any use of a mark in terms of trying to find that pass inside. It's been hopeful kicks rather than anything else, similar to what we've just seen there. So both sides, when they're in possession, probably not finding that killer pass, and while the points have come from play, there's been no real goal chances created because it's lacking that pace, lacking that energy to break the line and get in through and try and create that goal scoring opportunity. So if a goal does come, it'll be a significant score, I imagine, because they haven't really created any of those goal chances because it hasn't the pace to it to try and achieve that, in my view.
Niall Davey into Naomh Mearnog territory. Sean Egan. And we have a mark, I think, almost as soon as you mention it.
Well, I'm glad someone was listening to me.
Paddy Andrews got the message.
If only the children responded at home like that, it'd be fantastic.
Well, don't mention lockdown. Paddy Andrews now with another opportunity. The last one, he skied it a bit from this similar kind of position. That one has been a little bit short. Philly Ryan will get to that ball. Now what he can do with it, can he just swing it over? No, it's gone to the right and wide. I was just hesitating there for a moment because it looked as if the referee and the umpire were considering whether it did or not, but in fact it's gone out to the right.
I agree. I thought it had just crept inside, but the umpire gave us a signal wide as Dave Feeney had spotted it just before that. So pressure on the kick out here from Brigids, trying to push up, manages to get it away.
And that short kick out is always a danger, but it works for Naomh Mearnog. And Shane Carthy, he looks up. Well, he's almost taken down, but referee decides it wasn't a pull down or anything of that kind, but he has been stopped in his tracks. Plays it to Fintan O'Connor, gets the return pass, looking for the nice ball into that corner. Again, not an awful lot of pressure on Mark Phelan. I think he might have gone for the shot that time, but by the time he decided to do it, the opportunity had gone, and so he's backtracking at the moment now. He plays it out to Brendan Colreevy. Fintan O'Connor, they'll go a different route this time down the right hand side, but again there's an awful lot of players in there in the middle. Fintan O'Connor, don't know whether he's a man that can take a shot from there or not, but he'll do his best with it, and that's a fine effort if it goes over, and that's a good score. Shane Kavanagh this time. Shane Kavanagh was always involved in that move. He was in and out, and he was always there when ready. Yeah,
but Mark Phelan is really the go-to man for the ball in from midfield. He's won a number of balls. If there's a criticism, it's maybe that he's turning onto his right side, that he doesn't have the option maybe to go left, or at least he hasn't shown us at this stage that he can. And that becomes then easier to mark because you're less fearful that he can go left or right on you. But did well to work the ball out, and then a great score by Shane Kavanagh to tie it up once more.
So we're back where we started, with Mark Cahill in possession down in his own half back line. And the sides are level once again as we head in towards the break. Now is there a bit of pace this time from Owen Devitt. Philly Ryan decides that he's not having much luck in that full forward line, so he decides he'll come out, gets a late challenge there. The referee says play on. Mark Donnelly has possession. Will he go for a goal from there? No, he decides to take the point.
That's a brilliant score from Mark Donnelly. That's his fourth point I have him tagged for in the first half here, and really the difference there is that little bit of pace and drive that creates the scoring opportunity for him. Philly Ryan did great there. It's very noticeable how easy it is for St. Brigids to travel 50-60 yards before anyone manages to try and put a check on them, and then that gives the opportunity to try and make those runs that then create the score. So 4 scores from Mark Donnelly in the first half has been a good performance, certainly from him.
Fiacre O'Mara plays it to Liam Campbell. Liam Campbell plays it to Paddy Andrews. Paddy Andrews plays it back outside to, is it Fiacre O'Mara? It is, in fact. Fiacre O'Mara lands it, and he is absolutely delighted with that. But that was directly from the kick out. Fiacre O'Mara picked up that ball, and he decided he'd keep going forward as well and got the score.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was the way Brigids were set up. The goalkeeper was looking to hit a spot there. Didn't work out for him, and then Fiacre O'Mara managed to turn it around and knock it over the bar. Dave Feely having a chat with Jack O'Neill in the middle of the field here. Probably Jack O'Neill has had a couple of personal fouls, and I'm not sure if there was something said there, and he's probably been watching out for maybe something else. So certainly appears now that there's going to be a word, if not maybe just a tick.
Yeah, I think he had a a slight few words with Brendan Culreevy, who they're marking each other just at the moment, and I think that perhaps led to that word from the referee. Great catch by Shane Carthy. Plays it low. And Shane Carthy, he's just so strong, so agile, so athletic. And he still has possession of that ball. Well, it was unfortunate for him there because that was Fiachra O'Mara that got in there. And it's saved on the end line there by Stephen Moore. And that was good play in defence by St. Brigids. But really Shane Carthy on his own there, his strength was enormous.
Yeah, he's really leading the line for them, and when he gets on the ball he's very difficult to stop. Unfortunate there to run into 4 or 5 bodies. A great block by Fiachra O'Mara after the score he had tagged just prior to that.
Owen Devitt now beginning to move forward much more in the last few minutes. Jack O'Neill, bit of pace in this move from St. Brigids. Just before the half-time break, Paddy Andrews holds it up. Philly Ryan is there alongside. Philly Ryan gets the pass. Well, I suppose it's the sign of a good player. When he wasn't having much of a product inside, he decided to move out and get a little bit more room for himself. He's been blocked on his run inside this time. Referee spotted that as well. Donnacha Ryan gets a high enough challenge, plays it back out to Mark Cahill. Mark Cahill, Brigids just trying to get the room. Jack O'Neill, that they can get a shot away. Jack O'Neill overplayed that one, and bit of a tussle there with Jack O'Neill, who has to be very careful. So Naomh Mearnog saved the day there, but St. Brigids had a lot of possession, but they just couldn't find the key to open that door into that defence. As Shane Carthy starts it all again on the halfway line, almost 65-metre line. Now it's on the halfway line. There are runs all around the place, but it's not easy to see where this one is going to go. Players trying to make the move there. There was good covering there throughout by Cahill Doyle. Mearnog man goes to ground, but the referee says no, nothing there. So perhaps one last opportunity before the half-time whistle. There won't be, in fact, because the half-time whistle has gone. At the moment, it's a 2-point lead for St. Brigids. I suppose there were some good scores, there were some good moves, but overall it lacked the intensity coming that we expected perhaps from these two teams.
Yeah, look, Brigids will be delighted. It was a tie game. They've been level 3 times, a tie game on 30 minutes, and then they knocked up over 2 scores in those couple of minutes of additional time that were added on by Dave Feeney at the end there. Their scores are just coming that little bit more easier for them. What's startling from my point of view is that they're able to travel so far from their own defensive line to the almost a 45-metre line on Naomh Mearnog side before anyone is actually trying to engage them in any form of tackle. That's fine, and it's worked a couple of times because they've managed to get a turnover. Or Jack O'Neill in the last ball there ran into a corridor, I guess, and then coughed up the ball because he overcarried it. So it does work on occasion. But for your Brigids to have 9 scores on the board, they haven't had to work overly hard to create those scoring opportunities. They had 3 on the board inside the first 10 minutes. So I'd say from a Naomh Mearnog point of view, they need to reset it and probably engage a little bit earlier. And from a St. Brigids, other side of the field, I guess it's a case of, let's keep doing what we've been doing, but can we add a little bit of pace to create like the overlap we did that created Mark Donnelly's 4th point there? And if we do, then we might just hit the goal. And if they do get a goal, it's hard to see where Naomh Mearnog would pull a goal out of the way they've set up in the first half, certainly.
Well, the second 30 minutes will tell us all of that. We'll be back on Dubs TV for full second half coverage, but for now we leave you with the halftime scoreline in this Senior 2 football semi-final. It's St. Brigids 9 points, Naomh Mearnog 7 points. Welcome back to Parnell Park for second half coverage of the Senior 2 Football Championship semi-final between Naomh Mearnog from Portmarnock and St Brigids from the Blanchardstown Castleknock area. At the interval, well, it was a 2-point margin, 9 points to 7 in favour of St Brigids. Colin Goggins is with me on commentary this afternoon. I suppose it's a second half we'd hope for better, certainly more intensity. That's really what it's all about, and perhaps that Mearnog will push forward more.
Yeah, exactly. It's really a case of just upping the pace and the tempo of the game. I think both teams are set up to not concede goals. They drop people behind the ball. Brigids a little bit better maybe at putting the press on than Naomh Mearnog certainly have been in the first half. Looks like a sub come in for Naomh Mearnog there. Keenan McFerguson there, number 23 I think it is, just gone in at centre back, or centre forward I should say.
And the match is back on. Dave Feeney getting us underway. And in this second half, Brigids, playing in their red and white, are playing down towards the church end. Paddy Andrews, and again with a little bit of space, cuts in. I think there's a change of marker on him. I think it's Darren Byrne that's marking him now at this stage. Mark Cahill, crossfield ball. Niall Davey picked up that card early on. Sean Egan, and again all very leisurely, all very much of a stroll across the centre of the pitch. Maybe a cut through here this time from Cahill Doyle, but no, Cahill Doyle really might go for it now. He's between the two players. The referee thought that it was okay, plays it out to Mark Donnelly. He's looking for his 5th point, Mark Donnelly. That one falls a little bit short, taken by Mark O'Connor, the Naomh Mearnog goalkeeper, and he plays it short. I'm just wondering, Coleman, in Parnell Park, do you feel that there's a scoring goal?
There was never for me anyway, that's for sure.
It wasn't personal.
I think that was a loaded question, Kevin, if ever there was one. I'm not sure if there is. Certainly the church end has maybe delivered a few more goals, or certainly has maybe there's less of an impact that comes maybe from any conditions that are coming over the back of it in terms of wind or rain or anything like that. So maybe the church end delivers that. I think what we'd be crying out here for is someone to deliver a goal in any end, because it's just lacking that little bit of impetus, lacking that little bit of tempo. While both teams are working hard and have been pursuing, obviously, trying to keep the championship going. It's just lacking that bit of pace at the minute.
Liam Campbell has an opportunity early for St Brigids, and it looked as if it was going right, but in fact it held its line, stayed inside the upright, and Liam Campbell gets the opening score of this second half for St Brigids for the first time in this game, I think. Since early on, in the 8th minute they were 3 points up, but they're 3 points up now once again. Yeah,
again, just the ease of which they're able to travel through the Naomh Mearnog line should be concerning for Naomh Mearnog. They're just lacking that little bit of intensity, and allowing them Brigids just have time to create scoring opportunities.
Well, for once now we see that St Brigids are backing off a little bit, and Sean Hawkshaw will go for the score there. It's hit very, very high, but it's going away out to the right hand side. Brigids will get a fist to that one, and Niall Davey will pick up the loose ball. He has a bit of support there. So Brigids once again now trying to move forward with a little bit of pace. Owen Devitt, towards the end of that first half, Owen Devitt was really moving very, very well. He was getting a little bit of space and he decided he'd use it rather than just play the ball off easy. Paddy Andrews now, he's got Sean Egan in support, doesn't decide to use him. Paddy Andrews now coming in field. Will he go for the shot himself? He will from the edge of the D. It's going to fall a little bit short, I think. Goalkeeper again, Mark O'Connor, holds it well. He was watching that one coming down out of the clouds. Fintan O'Connor now. There is a slight improvement in the tempo at the start of this second half, but again, there's an awful lot of players behind the ball. Darren Byrne, Darrow Boyle, and again Darren Byrne has possession of this one. Kieran McFerguson sub in at half time for Naomh Mearnog. Shane Kavanagh, Mark Phelan. There's a lot of passes being put together here, but is anyone going to take on the shot? Sean Hawkshaw, I suspect, will. You could just feel he was going to do that, and it fell nicely for him. In the end, a good score, their best perhaps so far.
Yeah, well, he certainly backed himself every time he's got on the ball in terms of taking on the opportunity. did well to create a bit of space for himself and then knock it over the bar. But he has that power that when he gets on the ball, he's difficult to stop, and he does come at a nice angle in terms of adding that score. So, important score for Naomh Mearnog.
Yeah, the angle was very good there, as it reduces the margin again to just 2 points. Fiacre O'Mara got a point in the first half, and this could open up for him now. He sees a nice little layoff there. The opportunity for Paddy Lysett. Paddy Lysett, nope, can't make that one count. It's gone right and wide.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed there because, you know, he was within range there to knock that over the bar. Hasn't managed to get a score so far. Another substitute from Naomh Mearnog, but an opportunity for Brigids there. Probably should have tacked that one on.
Oisin Taylor, the player who's come on for Naomh Mearnog. And again, the rush forward to the halfway line, but things slowing up after that, unless there's a new plan on possession. Carl Lynch-Bissett to Fintan O'Connor. Well, the ball has been called for, but again it's a loose one. It works well for Naomh Mearnog. The players appealing to the referee for that. Kieran McFerguson, and then in the end, that one I think is just drifting outside on the left hand side. Good shot that though from Shane Kavanagh, player who picked up 2 points in that first half, and now there's going to be some attention needed. But again, it looked as if it was picking up pace for a few minutes, and then suddenly it's gone down once again.
Yeah, and it was a good effort from Shane Kavanagh at that time, but they're still shooting 40 yards out from goal. They're really not causing significant problems inside where they look like creating anything that could, you know, turn the game in their favour. They're hanging in. They're managing to get a couple of scores, but it's just it's lacking that little bit of, you know, urgency from them, I guess. You know that Brigids aren't going much quicker than Naomh Mearnog are, but they just are a little bit more controlled in possession of the ball and creating their chances a little bit easier, which is giving them that slight advantage.
Alan Doyle, the injured player, is back up onto his feet, and he seems to have been fully recovered. Jack O'Neill plays to Sean Egan. Sean Egan now looked as if that might have been the early ball there for him, but he didn't play it, in fact. Lurkin McCarthy into the action for St. Brigids, and again nothing to break that line, and that one will be gobbled up in there, and free out. You really felt that was inevitable because there were so many Naomh Mearnog players in there, and that's
absolutely, and that's like threading the eye of a needle there. You're looking for that to be pinpoint. There's enough bodies back to that to go to snuff it out as they did that time. So, you know, in this instance, tactically that works for you. It's just how quick you can spring out now and try and create something the other end.
Well, last season St. Brigids lost relegation playoff from Senior 1 against Skerries, so they're hoping that this year they might get some silverware at least. And when you consider that Brigids were actually Leinster champions, Leinster senior football champions in 2003, I remember on a very gloomy day in Park Talton in Navan when they beat Round Towers of Kildare. But teams go, teams come, teams go, and then things change within a club, so the dynamic just isn't there at the moment. And of course a lot of focus on Paddy Andrews. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the probably unlucky there, Naomh Mearnog. They battled both for a ball there, but Dave Feeney has tended to favour the forward, or the player who's maybe slightly in front there. So it's probably unlucky that there was a free given against there. But, you know, Brigids did well to win on that instance. Look, I remember we played in a Dublin semi-final with Ballantyre the year that Brigids won their Dublin Championship in 2003. They beat Kilmacud Crokes in the final. So absolutely teams change in terms of personnel, and it's trying to regrow that then, and, you know, create the opportunity for other guys to go and emulate what has been done before that.
Well, an opportunity now for Sean Murray to go forward. Niall Davey, bit of pace with this one. Paddy Andrews is just outside him. He decides to go with the lower ball there. The referee felt that it was picked up off the ground there by Lurkin McCarthy, and even though he got it back to Paddy Andrews, it was all to no avail. The referee brings the ball forward. Carl Lynch-Bissett gets the return pass, and in turn once again. Better movement this time. Ends up with Darren Byrne. Oh, that ball is very, very loose. Paddy Andrews delighted to pick that one up to Jack O'Neill. Jack O'Neill looked as if he was about to get high challenge there, just about smuggled that ball away, and then Sean Egan went down to get it, and the referee felt that Sean Egan put in the boot there as he was trying to get that ball up.
Yeah, again, not sure that he had bent to pick up the ball. I think they kind of both pulled on it. Decision went his way though. Great take.
Oh yeah, Niall Davey, great catch in the air from the centre back. Movement now, Donnacha Ryan. Liam Campbell, he was sprinting into that position now. It's not a great position to shoot from, but he created a little bit of space. Lachlan McCarthy in there, Paddy Andrews with a bit of space now. If he gets inside that 45 and winds himself up, Jack O'Neill making the run there to help support him. Brigids looking as if they've got a little bit more intent this time. Donnacha Ryan goes for the shot there, and Donnacha Ryan shot goes to the right and wide.
Yeah, difficult first 10 minutes, score a piece for both teams over 10 minutes. Just demonstrates probably the lack of attacking prowess maybe that's playing out there. Difficulty in terms of creating chances for their inside forward lines because there just isn't the space with the bodies behind the ball. And as such then the chances are happening 30, 40 yards from goal rather than 20 yards out from goal, which are more difficult to get those scores. And that's ultimately why the first 10 minutes have only yielded a couple of scores, just because of those bodies causing problems.
Alan Doyle there wins the free, plays it infield there as far as Niall Murphy. Niall Murphy goes for the shot, and this one is over the crossbar. And again, I thought the umpire was reaching there to suggest that it was going wide, but Niall Murphy gets the point there, and this game is still in the melting pot.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the nature of the way the teams are playing. It's always going to be that, because neither team has really shown an ambition to go for a goal, and they haven't managed to stretch out that lead. That there's always opportunity for the other team to get a score and bring themselves back into the game. Great battle between Owen Devitt and Niall Murphy. Murphy came out on top there to land his first score of the game. But the absence of score is very much down to the fact that there's so many bodies, defensively covering. Silly free to give away there, but Paddy Andrews after losing control of the ball.
Yeah, 1 point between the sides, and I think Carl Lynch-Bissett there, I think he thought Paddy Andrews were going to get possession of that ball and then he could make contact with him, but that wasn't the way it worked out. So it's referee as another change has been made on the Naomh Mearnog side. Remember, they had to make 3 changes just before the throw in this game, so there's been a lot of coming and going. The man who's going off this time is Darren Byrne. And the player who originally should have started in this game, Matthew Shortall, is the player who's come in, as Mark Cahill gets St. Brigids moving again. Donnacha Ryan, will he go for another score? Well, he didn't get one the last time, but he plays it off well this time. Lots of players there in support, and that looked like Paddy Andrews took the tackle, spun around on it, and they've won an important free in.
Yeah, great run from Donnacha Ryan. Mark Donnelly, who's been quieter in the second half, popped it to Paddy Andrews, and just a silly tug on the jersey there, and a yellow card for the new man who's only after coming in there in the last 30 seconds or so. So not the greatest introduction for Matthew Shortall.
Philly Ryan will take the kick, 20 metres out, off the left foot. He steers that one in, and he steers it well, and he steers it over the crossbar. So Philly Ryan, who started this game with a burst of scores, he got 2 scores in the first 3 minutes. That's his 3rd point now for St. Brigids.
Yeah, there were 10 minutes without a score there, so an important one for them to get. Just pushes it out to 2 points again.
It seems almost as if it's a gap that's going to be very difficult to narrow at this stage, although Shane Kavanagh gets them moving again. Alan Doyle lets it go as far as Sean Hawkshaw. He's got support up on that far side of the field. That's Aidan Fee, I think it is, that's gone over there, and Aidan Fee takes the shot and he puts it over the crossbar. Yeah,
great, totally different level of pace there. So look how quick they moved the ball. There was 2 kick passes. Again, it was great work by Sean Hawkshaw to come across and win the ball. Pops the ball back then. And suddenly there's a little bit of impetus into Naomh Mearnog's play, and that pace then Brigids can't deal with it. And teams find it very hard to deal with it, any team attacking your pace. So add the pace, that creates the problems, and now you're putting Brigids on the back foot, as they're doing now. They're pushed up, asking Brigids to work it out, rather than giving them the time to do it.
First time I think we've seen that Stephen Moore or the defence have had to play that ball And this time Mark Cahill not going to the half back line, going to the full back line as Naomh Mearnog try and put some pressure on. But St. Brigids play it well. A little bit dangerous perhaps, but they might just get away with this, and that works well. Jack O'Neill will pick this one up. Doesn't handle it well the first time, but the second time round uses his pace now to go through the centre. The chase is on there. Matthew Shortall couldn't really put a hand on him there. He already had a yellow card there just after coming on, and Philly Ryan there has a little word with Matthew Shortall as they're passing. And Naomh Mearnog now, once again, Alan Doyle this time skips away from that. Alan Murphy's there alongside him. Will he use him? No, he won't. Decides instead to use Frank Doyle, who's moved forward from that full back line. So this does show a little bit more ambition now from Naomh Mearnog. Perhaps they've decided at this stage, what have they got to lose? They might as well just go for it. Well, that's a good turn from Mark Phelan. Did well there at Fintan O'Connor. Fintan O'Connor under pressure. Alan Murphy, he got one. This one isn't going to go over the crossbar. Sean Moore will pick that one up for St. Brigids. And out on that far side of the field, it'll go as far as Kevin Callahan. And the referee, I think, has blown for the water break, is it? Yes, the water break, in fact it is. So it's been an interesting enough third quarter. There's still only a point between the sides, and again you feel that maybe suddenly the change is on for Naomh Mearnog.
Yeah, certainly in those last 5 minutes they were definitely trying to dictate the pace of the play a little bit more than they have been up until now. I guess through and through it's still lacking that any urgency. It's still lacking the intensity that you'd maybe expect. I know that the prize in terms of a Senior 2 final maybe isn't as great as a Dublin County title, but it's still there as an opportunity to continue playing and get another match out of it. I think the challenge for both teams is that their inside lines are just finding it hard to see the ball, and as a consequence then they're just finding it hard to eke out those scoring opportunities. We really haven't had a goal scoring opportunity in 45 minutes. There hasn't really been that penetration. Maybe Mark Donnelly's fourth score at the end of the first half was as close as we came to somebody breaking the line, but that lack of pace, that lack of guys coming off the shoulder, and maybe the inability of the inside lines to cause problems for the full back lines just means that it's nice scores that are keeping the game ticking over. No one is managing to push out the 4, 5, 6 point gap, and that's where a goal would be such a critical score if any team manages to land it, because it's hard to see either score matching that with a second goal. And because scores have been at a premium, 3 for Mearnogs in 50 minutes of the second half there, 2 for St. Brigids, it's not the type of game that we're going to suddenly see a 15-minute scoring burst. It's a matter of who uses the ball more wisely in these last 15 minutes and who's able to get those couple of scores that see them over the line, because it really is hard to see where a goal would come out of for either team to try and build a bit of momentum to win the game.
But I suppose for the first time in a way it was Brigids that were glad perhaps of that water break there, because Naomh Mearnog were just pushing them, putting a bit of pressure on them, and they just needed to settle things down a little bit and take 60 seconds out.
Yeah, and that it all comes down to that speed in moving the ball. So we mentioned at the outset that Brigids had a lot of their warm-up involved hand passing. In Naomh Mearnog's instance there in that period, they were kicking the ball. They travelled the ball 70 yards with 2 kicks as opposed to 10 hand passes, and that just sped up everything they were doing.
Sean Egan now trying to burst through for St. Brigids, has the opportunity. He's down in the church end. He's bottled himself up in that corner though. Paddy Andrews going to play it all the way back outside. That's a long way back out as far as Kevin Callahan. This Brigids side managed by Kevin Bonner might have won the free there. Donncha Ryan got the highish enough challenge, and he might still win the free there, but he's been bottled up, and sheer weight of numbers there did it for Naomh Mearnog, and they'll come out of defence this time with Matthew Shortall. Skips away from the marker. Shane Kavanagh will pick it up for them now. They really have a little bit more ambition in this last few minutes. Shane Kavanagh trying to go through the centre, but skipped away. He saw the opportunity for him to become the meat in the sandwich there and just skipped out of it. Fintan O'Connor involved there as well. There's players all over the place for Naomh Mearnog now running in support, and they'll get the free in there as well. It's a long way out though. Mark Phelan will leave that one behind him.
Yeah, no real reason to dive in there. I guess there was Brigids drifting back. There was 3 Naomh Mearnog players coming from behind the ball, so they were probably short 1 or 2 just inside to create that extra overlap or create the position for them. A great battle inside between Owen Devitt and Niall Murphy. I'm not sure whose jersey has been tested more, but neither of them are, certainly to this point, Dave Feeney hasn't noticed much going on in there. Chance for Carl Lynch Bissett here, but it's a good distance out, will require a good connection.
Oh, he'll have to strike this one very, very well. Said the wind isn't a feature. That one is curling nicely, I think, but it's just gone to the right and wide. The umpire's signalling it down there to our right hand side. The umpires down there at the golf club end today are James Dowling and Chris Mitchell, as that one almost went astray. Down at the church end, it's Paddy Power and Paddy Kiernan, and the linesmen this afternoon are Sean McCarthy and Conor Jennings. Our referee is Dave Feeney, and he's given the free this time to St. Brigids for that foul on Paddy Andrews. Going to make a little note there of that one, but there really haven't been that many serious challenges in this game, but the yellow card comes out nonetheless. I think it might be Tommy Cosgrove that got that one, and again Brigids now. What movement can they get in this one? Fiacre O'Mara. He's got Liam Campbell ahead of him. Back behind him he's got Cathal Doyle. Cathal Doyle through the centre to Paddy Andrews. Paddy Andrews has got support now. He's got Sean Egan one side of him. Decides to go through the centre himself. That just wasn't high enough. Matthew Shortall picks it up and gives it away, and it's back as far as Philly Ryan. Philly Ryan will say thank you very much for that. Well, one tiny little mistake, and straight away Philly Ryan just pops it over the crossbar.
Yeah, and any of the good teams, I guess, or any team worth their salt is going to try and punish you when you turn over the ball. Just turn back on himself. It's unfortunate. Passed it to Lorcan McCarthy, and then Philly Ryan popped it over the bar. You know, Brigids have really struggled to create a huge amount in the second half. It's only their third score. Part of that is probably down to the fact that Paddy Andrews, who's arguably their go-to man for scores, is having to come so far out the field to get on the ball to try and create. And so just struggling really to make a difference on it.
Aidan Fee plays the long ball inside. Naomh Mearnog know they've got to do something now at this stage. They've got to get scores. And that one looks like it's going to be a good one. Oh, just off the upright and on over the crossbar. And I think it was the sub Tommy Cosgrove that got that one for them.
Yeah, lovely little jink on it just to create the space for himself. So went to go left, turned back onto his right, and then came back across again to stick it over the bar. Good score, nice little bit of movement to create the chance for himself.
And Brigids are probably saying to themselves at this stage, will they ever go away? Because they're still within a point of them. And as you said, a goal at this stage would really open this thing up completely. Donnacha Ryan plays it infield. Is there going to be the shot? Well, there was a chance there for Lorcan McCarthy to take the shot. He decided not to do it. Instead, he plays it out to Kevin Callahan. Kevin Callahan plays it back inside towards Sean Egan. Sean Egan can go for the score from there. If he gets that one, that'll be a very fine score from Sean Egan. That is a fine score from Sean Egan.
Yeah, great score from Sean Egan. Cosgrove unlucky to try. He didn't get the block on it. He did commit to it. Just unfortunate that Egan had got the ball away just in advance of that. It looked like the chance had been lost. They were trying to create the goal chance. McCarthy turned it back to Kevin Callahan, who found Egan to pop it over the bar. But you know, suddenly they're getting a couple of scores when they've struggled really to create anything.
I see Mal Ty is also into the action there. The two number 21s, and Mal Ty there goes a little bit wildly in the challenge. And the referee, I think, is going to give him a yellow card for that.
Yeah, look, he probably tried to slap the ball away there, but it's a bit wild, and it looks to a referee that you're out of control in terms of what you're trying to do. So, yellow card picked up, and really there was no need for it. Tommy Cosgrove, since coming on, has certainly shown hard and is trying to work hard for Naomh Mearnog. But with 2 points up and the clock ticking against them a little bit, it's really Brigids to control now if they decide that's what they want to do.
Mal Ty, the substitute, carrying the ball forward. He's got plenty of space. The player in front of him is Fintan O'Connor. He plays it outside as far as Mark Donnelly. We haven't seen as much of Mark Donnelly in the second half as in the first. Paddy Andrews. There's plenty of space in the corner there. He's been challenged by Darragh O'Boyle, and the referee says that there was a pull in the hand there. So an opportunity. It's a distance, and Paddy Andrews himself will take it.
Yeah, but again, we spoke about how he used his body in the first half. So if you watch again, he's just looking to sneak a yard in front, uses his own arm to get across, causes the defender then to pull at him because he can't afford to let him run. So it's really clever forward playing that you're using your own body to draw a free, and he's demonstrated a couple of times that ruthlessness in trying to do that and creates a scoring opportunity with this free.
This is an important one. If he can put 3 points between them, that's a much better strike than some of the others he had in the first half, and Paddy Andrews does well to direct that one over the crossbar.
Yeah, and a couple of points on the spin there, just push out the gap a little bit, and it asks questions of Naomh Mearnog again in terms of trying to do they need a goal to try and turn the tide in their favour? They probably do, because they're just struggling again to win possession out around the middle of the field.
Yeah, you get that feeling that they're going to have to do something that little bit special at this stage. And once again, Brigids coming forward. Kevin Callahan just lost it at the time. Mal Tai just trying to get hold of that ball there. I don't think there was anything in that. I think his foot was just being used as he was trying to jump over the player almost. But he already had a yellow card on that one now, being held there by Frank Doyle. So Mearnog know really that they need the goal at this stage. Really, we're into the last 7 minutes or so. That one was lost and then retained. They're still coming forward. Oisin Taylor. Their subs getting very much involved in this. They know what they've got to do. Sean Murray there, little nod off there on the player, little pressure on him, and there's going to be a free out for us in Brigids.
Now he's done well again, Fiach Romara there. He's been dropping back to help out his full back line throughout the game. Was unlucky in the first half. He got a hand on the ball and the score ultimately came out of it, just didn't get enough on it, but that time did well to get across, win the ball and also win the free, and just gives Brigids more time on the ball and another chance to create something for themselves.
And of course tomorrow there will be the second Senior 2 football semi-final. That's here in Parnell Park. It's also on Dubs TV. It's between Coola and Templeogue Sing Street. That's at 2 o'clock tomorrow. As forward comes Kevin Callahan for St. Brigids. Fends off the tackle, plays it through to Mal Tai. Mal Tai now, goal opportunity. Oh, he was just trying to be too precise on that one. It was far too delicate. He needed to just hit that as hard as he could and hope for the best.
Yeah, but for the first time someone managed to get past the line. We've spoken about the lack of goal scoring opportunities. That was done just by a hard run. He ran 30 yards to get himself into the space. First time anyone's really done that, and really should have tried to come up with something different than lobbing the goalkeeper, I guess. A point probably would have been enough either as well,
Fintan O'Connor, Sean Hawkshaw gets the free. So an opportunity from the edge of the D. So we could have had a goal at one end, and now at the other end we have a free that might just give Naomh Mearnog some heart going into the last 5 minutes or so of this game.
Yeah, Sean Egan, disappointed the free was given against him, but he played the body rather than the ball, and Dave Feeney was always going to offer that one up to Naomh Mearnog.
Shane Kavanagh drops that one in, and he drops it over the crossbar. So this game is still alive, remarkably. When you think that St. Brigids looked as if they were going to take a complete control of it, and still now there's only 2 points, one kick of a ball between them.
Yeah, and Brigids, it's for Brigids to control really. They've dominated really, managed to create everything a little bit easier. There was a goal chance that's gone a begging there, but they're after turning over the ball and just giving oxygen to Naomh Mearnog's lungs at the moment.
Well, there's four,
as he
five,
says that.
Yeah, 5 St. Brigids players back there, because Naomh Mearnog had been retreating and hadn't got forward fast enough. It was a very speculative effort from there. I see now that Carl Lynch-Bissett has gone into the full forward line.
Yeah, and Shane Carthy obviously has gone out in the second half here, and he's been a big miss. That power, that driving force in the middle of the field, maybe picked up a bit of a knock or an injury and he's had to leave the field. So he's been a big loss for Naomh Mearnog. They've lacked that leadership, they've lacked a couple of scores, and also his ability to create scores for the team as well.
St. Brigids now again with Paddy Andrews back in defence. He can carry this ball, but decides not to though. He plays in turn to Donncha Ryan. Donncha Ryan plays it back outside to Cathal Doyle. Cathal Doyle has Paddy Andrews inside in support. Paddy Andrews doesn't get it the first time, gets it the second time. Still might be on for the shot there. Plays it to Mark Donnelly. Mark Donnelly thinking about the shot. Mark Donnelly looks as if he might just squeeze that one inside, and he does. Mark Donnelly hits the ball very, very cleanly, and he doesn't have to hit it hard, but he just directs it perfectly.
Yeah, he does. His 5th point of the day. He's been very quiet in the second half. Obviously Naomh Mearnog identified him as someone they needed to get a little bit tighter to, which they had done. But again, he just freed himself up there, and he just stole half a yard to send it over, and that's style he has. It's not pressured, it's not hard work. It's a nice style to stick it over the bar, and stretches out the lead again to 3, and hard to see where Mearnog can win this from. Famous last words, as you,
yes,
Kevin.
Of course. And I think Mark Donnelly might have been a player who would have done well in the 60s and 70s when it was man-to-man perhaps, because he has that ability to take on one player and stroke that ball over the crossbar. He's still doing well at the moment though, as Naomh Mearnog again have another opportunity. Still a score between them, a goal between the sides.
Yeah, silly free to give away there. Sean Murray came out and was a very blatant push in the back. Player moving away from goal like that, and they haven't been overly productive from 30-35 yards out in terms of winning a ball and spinning and pop it over the bar. So you just need to stand up there and delay the forward rather than giving away an easy, well, I won't say easy, but certainly a scoreable free.
Shane Kavanagh, he's been in form today. That's very, very high, but it's also very accurate. Oh, that's a lovely score. Almost dropped over the black spot. Shane Kavanagh gets another one, and still this game goes on. It still isn't over.
Yeah, he did well to pop it over. Was as I said, it wasn't an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. Trims the gap back to 2 as the clock ticks towards injury time or whatever additional time that Dave Feeney will add on. So a couple of big possessions needed here from Naomh Mearnog if they want to change the shape of the game.
Stephen Moore, that's a long, long kick. Donncha Ryan might just get to it. It hasn't gone out on the far side. It looked as if it had there for a moment, and Donncha Ryan working very, very hard. He ran hard, now he's tackling hard, but he gives away the free.
He's unlucky because he almost won the kick out and then worked hard to try and win it back, so he is unlucky to give away a free there, but not a bad place to give it away from a St. Brigids perspective. Naomh Mearnog need to come all the way and are looking for 2 scores in probably a fairly short period of time.
Donncha Ryan was the saviour of St. Brigids last year when they played in the Division 1 League relegation playoff against St. Oliver Plunkett's. He scored the winning point in that game to win it by 7 points to 6 for St. Brigids, and he scored the winning point in the dying seconds of that game. That's why I said he likes to come forward, he likes to push to get scores, but Naomh Mearnog are still in this game. And that one though from the corner back from Dara O'Boyle has gone left and wide. Really, they need to create something inside, and that really wasn't it.
Yeah, and they have struggled to create something inside, apart from a couple of scores that Mark Phelan got in the first half. They've really struggled to bring that full forward line into life. That time, Dara Boyle, he may well be able to score, but there's a couple of running into injury time. It's looking to try and find someone maybe that little bit closer to goal. Very hard for a guy to land a score from there at this stage in the game. It's you don't want to be banking on a cornerback to be getting you the score, so it's just trying to work the right ball to the right guy to try and get the score, trim it to 1 and see if you can create one last chance.
Colm Doyle, another substitute for St. Brigids, just into the action. And that was perhaps a little bit lucky there for Oisin Taylor, because he seemed to have lost control of that ball when Paddy Andrews came in and made the challenge. But it's going to be a free nonetheless, which Shane Kavanagh will take. And is there anybody inside? There's not an awful lot of movement in there. Mark Phelan, he's done well so far. Mark Phelan takes the shot, and it's just off that upright. Well, that would have been an important one to land, because it would have brought them back to within 1 point. As it is, there's 2 between them, and time is running out.
Yeah, unlucky because he drove hard at it, and it was hard to stop there, and just unlucky he hit the outside of the post. He's obviously very much favours his right side, so it just limits his opportunities when he gets on the ball, albeit that he was unlucky there to hit the upright. Big chance for possession here.
Stephen Moore up highest there. Naomh Mearnog and Maltai does well to get back there and win that. Maltai has been pulled down by Kieran McFerguson. Colm Doyle, nice little dummy and sidestep there by Fikra O'Mara. Mark Donnelly, Paddy Andrews, they're not going to push forward with any great speed here.
No, and then the instruction coming is keep the ball, so Naomh Mearnog need to push up. There's not much point sitting back, because it scores they need, and more importantly the ball to try and create a score. And
all that results in Sean Egan having an opportunity to run forward, which he does, uses his strength, fends off 2 tackles there into the Naomh Mearnog 45. Philly Ryan, Philly will hold on to the ball now as well. He's looking back behind him there, and he plays it to Paddy Andrews. The message, as you said there, is to hold possession. Fikra O'Mara up on the outside. At this stage now, they might consider going for a score. They might not. Philly Ryan almost in leisurely fashion there, playing that one back. Kevin Callahan. Oh, that one's a loose one. Sean Egan just didn't have the strength there. You can see the tiredness coming into him. He's worked like a Trojan all day.
He has been very good, but I think Kevin Callahan was looking for a miracle pass there, when it just keep it simple. You can see out the clock, they're holding on to possession well. 2-point game. You don't want to be turning over the ball, because obviously a goal means that you're down a point, and I don't think there's enough time if it does happen to happen for them. But it would be a miracle for Naomh Mearnog to get the goal, given how they've struggled to create any goal chance at this stage.
I'm not sure how Tommy Cosgrove got away there twice, but he managed to get away. And Sean Egan, who was tired a moment ago, wins the possession, doesn't get it back there, but does very, very well on the tackle. Now this is the last opportunity perhaps for Naomh Mearnog. The last opportunity doesn't exist for them anymore. The final whistle has been blown by Dave Feeney. St Brigids have prevailed by 2 points in the end. We thought it might be a close contest going by what was happening on earlier on. Not a great game of football, too open in a sense, if that's something that's bad about a game of football. And we had a lot of very good scores though, but really it just lacked that little bit of intensity.
Yeah, it did. I guess the key moment, if there's, for want of a better way of phrasing that, it was 7 points all in 30 minutes in the first half. Bridges got a couple of scores just at the end of the first half, which put them 2 points to the good, and that's ultimately what's won them the game. That ability to get the couple of scores in quick succession. They struggled for periods in the second half, went 10 minutes without a score, and then another 8 or so minutes, so almost 80 minutes they only managed to get 2 scores. But because Naomh Mearnog were allowing them to build easily, weren't creating or weren't getting their own scores, it just meant that Brigids always had that little bit of advantage, always looked like they had enough to try and see it out. Naomh Mearnog, I would have felt, maybe yielded a little bit too much space, a little bit too much time for the Brigids to play around them, and as a consequence they never managed to give themselves an opportunity even to get in front, to ask Brigids the hard questions. They didn't create any goal scoring opportunity across the 60 odd plus minutes, whereas Brigids arguably created maybe 2. The Maltoy one, probably the standout one, where he maybe took the wrong option in terms of trying to pop it over the keeper's head, which is a hard skill to pull off at any stage. But they just had that little bit more about them, and I suppose from an attacking point of view, both probably struggled at times to bring their best forwards into the game, but ultimately Brigids had enough, and those couple of scores at the end of the first half see them into a Senior 2 final, which they'll be mightily pleased with.
When Naomh Mearnog made an effort to get forward and get numbers forward, it looked as if they could break down that St Brigids defence. So do you think perhaps at the end of this game they'll say, look, you know what, we should have given it a bit more?
Yeah, well, you're not going to get scores unless you have guys attacking at pace, trying to break the line. So they did reel off a couple of great scores. The couple of points that Shane Carty got came on the back of a pass. He followed up his pass, took it at pace, and then managed to get a ball over the bar. They did use Mark Phelan inside quite well in the first half, struggled to maybe find him in the second half. And as a consequence, the only score they got from their full forward line then in the second half was Niall Murphy's point that came late enough on. So I guess ultimately you want your best forwards to try and get the scoring opportunities, but if you're not coming at pace to try and support in that, then you're allowing the defenders to have at their leisure move across to try and block up that space. And because of the ease in which they were allowing Brigids to come out, they were having to work so hard to get back to field to block up space and then try and counter that coming the other way, and it just never looked like they had enough momentum in them to try and get 2, 3, 4 points on the spin that were going to put Brigids on the back foot. There was probably a 10-minute spell in the second half. They got 3 points to Brigids 1 across, maybe from the 40th minute to the 44th minute, where it was a 3-1, and you thought maybe the tide is turning in their favour. But I think you called it out yourself, Kevin, in commentary, that they had a little bit of pace, and then it was like they took their foot off the gas again and just allowed Brigids to come back around again and get the couple of scores they needed to win it out.
So St Brigids hold on to reach the Senior 2 final, where they will meet either Coola or Templeogue Sing Street. But next up on Dubs TV this afternoon, it's the Senior 1 football semi-final, Ballyboden, St Enda's and St Jude's. That's at 5:30, but for now, from Coleman Goggins and myself, Kevin Mallon, we leave you with the final scoreline from the Senior 2 semi-final. St Brigids 15 points, Naomh Mearnog 13 points.